Interesting there. We'll bring in Thomas Savidge, a research fellow at the American Institute for Economic Research. He's joining us here today. We do appreciate that. So this letter was sent out. Obviously, these letters were sent out to multiple countries, but this one with Canada. Talk to us about that. Canada is one of the United States' top trading partners, with more than $410 billion of goods crossing into the country each year. What are your thoughts on this? But also Canada with their retaliatory tariffs, and who really has the upper hand here?
Well, yeah, it's a great question, Sean and Emma. It's it's a complicated situation, and of course, if Canada's going to try to enact tariffs on us, two wrongs don't make a right. But if we're looking at it, I think it adds a lot of complexity to the business that we have with, like you said, one of our biggest partners. If you look at the fine print of these proposed tariffs, goods covered under the U.S., Mexico, and Canada agreement, which was passed under the first Trump administration, would be exempt. Now, that includes some raw materials, such as copper, coming from Canada. Mind you, that Canada is, I think it's our second biggest supplier of copper. And I wonder how that's going to impact the proposed copper tariffs that were just talked about earlier this week. So you think about Treasury Secretary Bessent's three-legged stool: taxes, deregulation, and trade. It seems that these trade matters are complicating, are just making things more complicated, both in the regulatory sense. You have these businesses trying to figure out how to stay compliant with these new rules, what falls under the exemptions, what doesn't. And then also it adds to the tax complexity as well, figuring out what taxes get applied where. Is my product that I'm shipping into the United States going to fall under this tax? And that bleeds over into the larger economy, especially for something like copper, which is an essential material in so many different building processes, automobiles, you name it.
Sure. Well, no confusion, by the way, if Canada just joins the U.S., because then we're all trading together. Just kidding. That seems to have been put on ice for a bit. We wanted to welcome in Pete Sepp, also president of the National Taxpayers Union, to join in this Friday conversation. And before we do, let me show you this clip. This was earlier in the week, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick speaking with Rob Schmidt here on NEWSMAX about the U.S. trade deficit and how tariffs could actually help the U.S. get out of this hole. Watch this.
Okay, so the president is setting the rates of tariffs for the top 30 or 40 countries individually, and he's sending out letters. Now, those tariff rates are depending on how open that country's been about opening their markets. You know, we have $1.2 trillion trade deficit with the rest of the world, and the president knows if we fix that, that means our farmers, our ranchers, our fishermen, our entrepreneurs can sell more to those economies, and so he's trying to open those markets, or they pay here.
So, Pete Elgoody, what do you think about the secretary's comments there?
Well, very important that our farmers have more markets abroad, especially since the United States itself practices farm protectionism. We got to work on that here, too, with price supports for sugar and whatnot that keep foreign sugar out of the United States. So it's a reciprocal problem, and taxpayers are the ones who end up footing the bill for it all. The underlying point here, though, is when do we take the win? For example, Japan just got threatened with more tariffs. Well, Japan agreed long ago not to do things like impose digital services taxes on the United States. Canada recently agreed as a negotiating concession to say we're not going to proceed with a digital services tax on U.S. services entering our country. Why not take those wins and build on them? I think the negotiation process that the president has initiated is working in spots. We may not get our 90 and 90 days worth of agreements, but why don't we start taking some of these wins and building on them rather than creating more confusion, uncertainty, and let these policies work?
Yeah, I'm just watching pre-market trading right now. Either way, investors don't like it. The tariff war, if you will, the tariff trade battles going on. They still react right now negatively to this. The Dow is trading down about 280 points. These are pre-market trading. But again, we've seen time and time again, a tariff is put out there, 35%, let's say, and then a deal comes through. So again, maybe this happens. Thomas Savidge and Pete Sepp joining us here on this Friday. Thank you.